Welcome to another edition of Under the Bus. Us three old guys who've seen some buses in our days usually are busting on people and throwing them under the bus. I'm Bob Stevens, formerly of ESPN. You see Curry Kirkpatrick, formerly of Sports Illustrated. Rich Basirico, the Hall of Fame basketball coach. I'm going to begin today, though, not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm going to begin today, I was going to begin today with a quick reading that I won't begin today. Anyway, today is the 44th anniversary. Yeah, I know. I did a great job of setting this up. But our great listeners and viewers are going to remember this speech. 44 years ago today, if you're listening to this on Thursday, Herb Brooks made the famous speech in the locker room and sent the U.S. hockey team out to beat the Russians. He said they might beat us 9 out of 10 times, but not tonight.
Not tonight, not this time. Not this time,
Not this time. Remember where you were when that hockey game got played? Because you didn't get to see it live. It was tape delayed by 3 hours on ABC. Remember where you were, Curry?
I remember exactly. I was sitting in my vestibule in Hilton Head, South Carolina, my old home, first home there, and watching that thing. And I had just done a basketball story, which I think we talked about a few weeks ago. I just come back from doing a basketball story for Sports Illustrated, and I wasn't a big hockey fan, but of course everybody on that day was a hockey fan.
Sure,
absolutely. One of the biggest upsets ever, don't you think?
Of course, and one of the great speeches ever that Herb Brooks gave, and then they repeated in the terrific movie, which was made about 20 years ago. Kurt Russell playing Herb Brooks, really terrific.
Rich, did you ever use that speech?
I don't remember the speech, believe it or not. I do remember, obviously, the game, and I'm not a hockey fan either, but I watched that, on tape delay because the excitement behind that. If we could beat Russia, would be unbelievable, and it happened. It happened.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't remember, it wasn't the finals. We had to win another game to win the gold medal. It was the semis. And
had to beat Finland and almost didn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you think it might be a letdown, right? After a big win like that, there could be a letdown. It's happened in sports many times, but obviously they came and played and pulled it out.
This is the first and maybe last time we've mentioned hockey on this podcast since we've been doing it. But congratulations, Bob.
Just trying to show how rounded we are.
Good job. The next time
something happens in hockey that's this big, we'll lead with it again. All right. Yeah, we're all agreed on that.
Yeah.
Let's go to, before we get to any other talk about Super Bowls and college football playoffs and all that. It is now basketball season, college basketball season. You guys, I know, are anxious for that. We began this past week. Ohio State firing its coach, who were a 2 seed 3 years ago, and then they go out and upset Purdue. UConn loses then by 19. Those were the two top teams, the teams you guys said were far and away the best teams in basketball. Kentucky has lost. North Carolina has lost. Should we leave number 1 and maybe even number 2 vacant this week in the poll? Should, if you had a vote, not vote for anybody?
Probably so. I mean, that's the beauty of college basketball. The balance of anybody can beat anybody on a given night. I mean, for Purdue to go to Ohio State. Now, obviously, it was on the road, and Ohio State was pumped up for them. Every team's ready to play Purdue, but I was pleasantly surprised that Ohio State did what they did to Purdue. I thought, I don't think they go to their big man enough. I really don't. I mean, he's so much better than the inside game of Ohio State, and they just didn't go. I mean, there were 3 or 4 possessions in a row where they passed the ball inside of Eddie, and he got fouled every time. He's a very good foul shooter, but I think they still should have went to him more. Ohio State,
well, I think
their perimeter play.
I think Rich, he got his 25, and 15. He gets that every, he gets that falling out of bed. But a couple of their outside shooters who are very important to them, to Purdue. I mean, they've got to make shots. And Jones, the new guy, and Lawyer were 4 for 18 from outside. And so that's gonna hurt them. I think it's funny that that's the first committee, the NCAA committee seeds came out with their first seeds early in the week, and then everybody started losing. I mean, we had everybody going down. This is after, of course, we talked about separation. The top four teams were separating themselves from the rest of the country, and with Houston, Arizona, Connecticut, Purdue. And I think they'll still be the top seeds. But
Right.
it's just I heard you before we got on talking about Kentucky losing last night to LSU, and it's a bad loss. I don't know that any loss on the road to a pretty good team is a bad loss. I mean, these people, it was a miracle victory that LSU got. The guy got the tip in at the end after Kentucky had come back. Two unbelievable games last night in the SEC. Alabama beat Florida at home. I mean, Alabama gets 95, stepping on the court, they're going to get 90 on you. And it was just an amazing week. Like you said, Rich, in college basketball, and then Connecticut, which was, they were kind of on a 14 game winning streak. They go to Creighton and get blown out.
Right.
And but that again, that game started with Klingon, their big man, their 7'2" guy, getting in foul trouble, and he went to the bench, and all of a sudden, Creighton starts hitting threes out their butts. I mean, I think they hit 11 threes in the first half. And they have the little point guard transfer from Utah, Steve Ashworth. He hit 4, and it's also the modern day college basketball. The Big East now goes through Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, here's Creighton in the Big East, and they're led by this little guard from Utah, from Alta, Utah, and he's beating Connecticut by himself. I mean, it was kind of funny. And what they lose by 19?
19.
And they came back to 10 in the second half, but they couldn't get over the hump. But it just goes to show you, like a game on the road against a good team, you're going to have trouble winning, no matter who you are.
Without a doubt.
Go ahead, Rich.
No, go ahead, Bob. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say. So let's kind of spin it forward. Late in February, you got we don't know who's the very best. The big action is down maybe on the bubble. You guys' second favorite team, St. John's, gets pounded again. And then Rick Pitino, speaking of under the bus, Rick Pitino throws his team under the bus.
He's going under
his
this
assistant
week.
coaches. And his
I tee you up.
He talking about throwing under the bus. That was awful what he did about his players, number one. And then his assistant coaches he threw under the bus, saying they didn't do a good job recruiting. He brought the wrong type of players in. How do you work for a guy like that when there's no loyalty? And your players, how do you play for him when he doesn't believe in you? And it's all about him. Like, they're not losing because of him. They're losing because his assistant coaches didn't do a good job and because his players aren't playing to the best of their ability. I don't know how, as a player, how I'd be ready to play for him. And as an assistant coach, I tell him to go take a hike. I'll see you next year. I'm going someplace else.
Well, yeah, he threw his entire world under the bus, and he not to mention, how about the St. John's facilities? He actually called me. He said, "Do we have shitty facilities?" Yes, but I don't, And then he called it. I love this quote, which I mean, that was a global rant. That guy. I mean, he's had some in his days, but that was wonderful. And how about his last quote? He said, "This is the most unenjoyable experience of my coaching life." This is a guy whose term at Kentucky was tainted by, a woman who accused him of having sex with her on a table in his own Italian restaurant. And then he got fired at Louisville for having a dorm with hookers. And this is his most unenjoyable experience. Come on, Rick. I mean, it's, of course, they beat Georgetown last night. And of course, he apologized to the entire world after the game. Apologized to everybody. But I mean, I'm not sure you can get over that. And his players played hard for him last night. Rich,
they love. He keeps on saying, "I love my players. I love my players," but they're not very good.
Yeah. Well, but he recruited.
What are the players going to do? I mean, inside, they're not. They don't like what he had to say, but they're going to continue to play. But that, beating Georgetown on the road. Anytime you win on the road, it's a good win. But Georgetown's terrible this year.
Georgetown's terrible.
Great. But they were up by 19, and Georgetown got it down to 3.
Did you
So
guys watch the game? Did you guys watch the game at all?
No.
Watch
last night,
Pitino last night? Yeah.
no, I watched the Seton Hall game. I didn't watch last night. I was on the
Well, no,
road.
but Pitino, I'm telling you, there's something. Rick looks about 112 years old. His skin, he looks like he has no blood in his body, in his face. It's so pale. He looks, I mean, it's sort of sad. Isn't there don't you go to a clinic to get your blood removed to get you to look younger or something? I mean, he looks like a zombie. I mean, it's really, I don't recognize him anymore. He has no
Well,
color
send him a
in his
text,
cheek.
Curry. Tell him a text,
His
and he should
blood
do
is
that.
his blood has been devoured out of his body by some ultra. I don't know.
I tell you what it's from losing. That's what it's from losing.
I guess.
He
I
can't
guess
handle
so.
it very well.
I guess so. That's why you retired, right, Rich?
There you go. Curry, you did not help this segue, because I wanted to finish up this segment talking in college hoops about a guy we lost this week, Lefty Driesell, who, to me, the subject of the greatest bumper sticker of all time, that said Duke, where Richard Nixon learned law and Lefty Driesell learned English. Probably you're still getting royalties for creating that bumper sticker, but you have some probably fabulous stories about Lefty.
Well, Lefty was one of the great characters of my lifetime in writing about sports. I mean, what a neat guy. I mean, he kind of came across as this cornpone guy from backwoods Virginia. He talked like he was wearing overalls and had a toothpick in his mouth. But as you said, he went to Duke and he was an honor student at Duke, graduated there. He always used to say, "I can't be that dumb. I went to Duke." But he brought Davidson out of nowhere to prominence. He missed the Final Four one year. He had recruited a guy named Charlie Scott, who ended up going to North Carolina, and Davidson got to the Elite Eight in Charlotte, where Davidson was located. Played against Charlie Scott in North Carolina in the Elite Eight. Charlie Scott put 40 on him and knocked him out of was unable to go to the Final Four. Lefty started his career at Maryland by announcing that Maryland was going to be the UCLA of the East. Remember that great quote? And he was derided. He was derided and mocked for that forever until the season of 1973-74. It started out with a game Maryland played at Duke, a game in December that I covered, and we put it on the cover of Sports Illustrated. That's how big this game was, because Sports Illustrated never did a college basketball game, put it on the cover in December. And this was the great team that Lefty recruited at Tom McMillan and Len Elmore and John Lucas at guard. And they played Bill Walton's great UCLA team, which had won 74 in a row. And they went into Pauley Pavilion, and it was an unbelievable game. It was a 1-point game that Maryland lost at the buzzer. It was a broken play. UCLA scored to go up by a point. Maryland and UCLA brought the ball at half court. Maryland fouled a kid named Tommy Curtis at the gun. Lefty was down by 1. Lefty, I'll never forget this. He went to his knees, signaling to the referees, "No basket. No basket. Do not let him shoot free throws." And they didn't. And Lefty was saying, he just lost the biggest game of his life by 1 point. And he wanted to know the world that it was only by 1 point. It wasn't by any more. And he was waving off the bat. I mean, it was just great. And he came out after the game. He said, "Man, it sure wasn't a W, but I sure am proud." And his career was kind of marked by losses. Later in that season, Maryland played North Carolina State in the finals of the ACC championship in Greensboro. The game was 103-100. Went into overtime. I was so mad because I was out in LA covering UCLA against USC, and I couldn't do this game. So I was watching on TV. It was one of the greatest games of all time in college basketball. And he'd lost by 3 again. This was a game, when you could only have the league would only send one team to the tournament. So Lefty again lost his chance to get the NCAAs. He went to the North Carolina State bus. He went on the bus after the game, and he told the North Carolina State players how proud he was of them and his own team. and he congratulated them, and he said, "I hope you guys go on to win the championship." And 1 month later, they did. They beat UCLA in the semifinals in the national championship, and then beat Marquette in the finals, and to stop Bill Walton's great career winning streak. So Lefty was a great character. Yeah, I mean, he was just wonderful.
Just as an aside, was that the year you were covering USC UCLA? Was that the year that USC only lost 2 games? And it was 2 games to UCLA.
And those were the days, as you know, only one team got to go to the tournament from each conference. That game, that NC State Maryland game, though, led to them changing the rule. The next year, they let 30 teams in instead of 24, and it changed forever. The game changed the NCAA tournament forever. That game, and Lefty's a part of that. He used to, his great rival was Dean Smith, and he always used to think Dean was, on a level above everybody else and got all the calls. And somebody once asked him, they were thinking about adding 3 refs. This was in the days when there were only 2 refs, and they were thinking about adding 3. And they asked Lefty what he thought about it. He says, I don't like that. I don't like that. Because now when I play Dean, it'll be 8 against 5 instead of 7 against 5.
Great stuff.
He once played a game. One more thing. He once played a game in Chapel Hill in the old Carmichael Auditorium. And one of the assistants went into the Maryland locker room right before the game. And Lefty was standing on the toilet looking at the ceiling, like looking at what's going on, and said, "Coach, what are you doing?" He said, "I know Dean's got microphones planted in his place somewhere." he was just wonderful. Yeah, he died. He lived to 92 years old. What a great life.
Yeah. Indeed. That's fabulous stuff. All right. We've used more than half the show.
Hey, one more thing. One more thing about coaches.
We're going to use even more than half the show. Go ahead.
One more thing about coaches. Late last night, Hurley, gets beat at Creighton two nights ago. Did you see what he did after the game, Hurley?
I heard he apologized. Said it was all he took the blame.
No. Well, he had to. He's going off the court, and the Creighton fans are screaming and yelling at him. And security is, of course, escorting Hurley off, and he's yelling up to a fan. And lip readers say what he was saying was, "Come across that rope, and I'm going to knock you out." And he had to. But then the tape shows, he really wants some of this. He's on one side of then right after that, he goes to the other side, and he's yelling at this side. He wants everybody to come down and get him. And then he posted. You guys, he posted something yesterday, a little tape of some medieval figure. I think it's Jesus walking through a crowd, and they're screaming and yelling at him. And Hurley posted his face on the figure of Jesus as he's walking through this crowd. Oh yeah, it was great. And this is the same coach who in the preseason said, at Connecticut, we're not a blue collar basketball. We're a blue collar basketball team. We're not an internet basketball team. And then he goes on X and posts that thing yesterday. It was great. These coaches are a trip, I'm telling you.
There you go. We're going to tell some more coach stories next week. We're going to talk about a number coming up next. The number is 211. Stay with us as we come back Under the Bus. Welcome back Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Curry Kirkpatrick and Rich Basirico. Last week's All-Star game, the NBA finally starting back up again this last week, and 211 to 186, the All-Star game. I'm going to start out by not throwing anybody except Adam Silver under the bus. Because
Except who?
Adam Silver I'll throw under the bus,
the
commissioner of the NBA, because he did not seem too excited about this at all. He had been preaching that he wanted to see some defense. I actually thought, that's what people wanted to see, was guys jacking up threes, and he certainly got that.
Bob, how many threes they attempted between the two teams?
How many?
168. 168 3-pointers.
East
The
East
the
team.
purists want to see defense. They do want to see defense. You want to see, I mean, I know you want to see scoring, but that's ridiculous. Play some D. You heard Larry Bird came out before the game and said, hey, I want these guys to play hard. Hard? How do you play? You play zero defense. You know how many foul shots were taken in the game? Total foul shots.
How many?
Three,
Five.
five.
Five?
Five. So that means there's no defense because no one's reaching, no one's touching anybody. They're just bombing away. I
How
couldn't
about
even
your boy?
watch.
How about your boy? How about your boy Carl Anthony Towns scored
He had
50,
50.
50, and I don't know if you remember this. His last attempt, going for 52, he tried this alley-oop layup at the buzzer, and he almost castrated himself. He fell over himself, and it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I mean, these guys trying to get 52. Come on, cat, the big cat. What are you talking about? I want
I couldn't
Rich,
watch it.
Bob,
Couldn't watch it.
Yes.
The whole NBA. Let's talk about the whole NBA weekend. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, the skills competition. Can you figure out what they're trying to do, what they're trying to prove? The players themselves don't know where to go in the skills. They're all wandering around, not where to go. And somebody should tell TNT that Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller and Kenny Smith, you can't even hear them when they're talking about it. They're trying to say funny stuff. You can't even hear them because the crowd is screaming and these guys are, I mean, the skills competition is, I don't know, the whole thing. Then how about the dunk contest? I mean, come on. I mean,
Got a guy
I
in the
think
G
this is
League
it.
that wins it. He's playing in the G League and he wins it
Yeah,
for the second
yeah.
year in a row.
But jumping over people is so over. Come on. I mean, it's so dead. I mean, they've either got to. Here's what would save the dunk contest. They've got to get the great players to enter the dunk contest. Some name players, the LeBrons, the Greek freaks. They've got to get these guys to do the dunk contest, or it is, or either that, or go recruit some of these TikTok teams from the street that go. They do this while that's what they should do. Get a few of those guys in there.
Oh, that's like
for
the
the
home
dunk
run
contest.
derby in baseball. Coach, what do you think?
In terms of the dunk
The whole
contest,
thing.
I
The
don't.
floor is yours.
It doesn't do anything to me. I don't enjoy it at all. I don't enjoy not having guys play defense. I mean, I know kids love the dunks and all these 3-pointers and so forth. I don't watch the skills. I don't watch the 3-point shooting. I don't, to be honest, I don't watch any of it. It's just the only
Well,
time I watch the NBA is in the playoffs. I've watched a little bit because the Knicks have done well this year.
here we
Following
go.
their
Here we
GMs,
go.
made some good trades. Yeah, we got to talk about the Knicks.
Here we
We
go.
got to talk about St. John's. We got
Well,
to talk
wait a
about
minute.
North
Wait a minute.
Carolina.
I want to wait a minute. I think one way I was thinking the way to save the All-Star game at one point. I was thinking make it the U.S. against the rest of the world. But then you see Jokic and Doncic. These guys don't even care in the All-Star game. They don't even try. I mean, they don't even care. I mean,
None of them
Doncic
care.
goes down and the young players. We got Anthony Edwards, one of the great young stars in the NBA. He's throwing up shots left-handed, and he even said after the game, who cares about this game? I mean, yeah, it's like a dead dog. You've got to kill it or do something. I don't know.
The best thing to
But
do, you know what the best thing to do for it is eliminate it. Don't even
kill it.
have it anymore.
Yeah,
That's the best
just
thing to have it.
yeah, kill it. Yeah, like
It
like
might
the
get the season
NFL. Like the NFL did the Pro Bowl game. I mean,
Yeah.
they killed it and
Right.
whatever.
Maybe they could do 3-on-3 at each end. They play 3-on-3.
The one
At
good
least
thing, the
Go
one
ahead.
good thing about the All-Star game was Stephen Curry shooting against Sabrina Ionescu. That
Yeah.
was really great. I mean, it lasted about 8 minutes of 3 days of All-Star bullshit. Excuse me, but Sabrina against Curry was terrific because I thought. I mean, I was really sexist. I had no idea that she would. I didn't think she'd make 20. That's kind of the line, and she made
Right.
26, which is on her turn. She made 26. Curry had to make 29 to beat her, and she was terrific. I mean, it was like Billie Jean King, Bobby Riggs match. It was
Yeah.
really amazing. I mean, she did more for the WNBA than since it's been I think than since it's been created.
Well, I think that was the only good thing of the weekend, really,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
People enjoyed.
And they
And
handled
as
it
you
so
guys
well.
said, because it mattered. It mattered to her anyway. and I think
Yeah.
it mattered to Steph Curry, and therefore we got competition, which is well, I guess
And they
what we're
handled
really
it.
looking for.
They handled it so well. They both, were gracious to each other, and they both said how nervous they were. Curry seemed really nervous. I mean, after she made the 26, now he's got to go out there and save his reputation. I
Right.
mean, it was really neat.
He knew how big a deal that her
Yeah,
making 26
yeah,
was. That's
Absolutely.
for sure.
exactly.
All right, we're gonna move on. Then we're gonna take another quick break. We're gonna come back. We got a lot of different stuff to talk about. I want to talk about a magical weekend in golf, a magical Sunday in golf. You guys may have some other things we'll bring up. We'll do that when we come back. Under the bus. Welcome back Under the Bus. Bob Stevens, formerly of ESPN, Curry Kirkpatrick, formerly of Sports Illustrated, Rich Basirico, formerly of Hilton Head Prep, as a Hall of Fame basketball coach in South Carolina, and the guy who brings a little sanity to these proceedings for sure. Coming off the Super Bowl, I don't think. Do you guys have any reason to say we should no longer have celebrations after the sadness, the little disaster we had in Kansas City celebrating? Do we still need to have celebrations after these, or do we need to get rid of those?
That's a good question. I mean, celebration, the fans wanted to do that. Obviously the players want to be out there in front of them. And it's so sad that what happened with those guys shooting. I guess they were shooting each other, right? Aren't they shooting each
Yeah.
other? They got in an argument. And of course,
Yeah, they've arrested two adults
Right.
now. Just the
Right.
argument. They didn't even
Awful.
know each other, and somebody said something. It's so distressing. And my take on it is, we're talking about celebratory parades. And I mean, can we ever have another parade that we won't think about this? I don't think so. I think it's smeared parades. It also has taken. I mean, I go so far as to say, Taylor Swift was supposed to be in that parade, and instead she went to Australia to do, to continue her tour. But I had read where the city had suggested to the Chiefs that they not have Taylor be in the parade because of the, even more people would get there. And to think that, this was right after the parade happened, the shootings,
Mm-hmm.
and to think that that was, I mean, it's just so depressing to think that now, I think it's even when you read about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift now, are we going to be able to disremember what happened at this parade? I don't think so. And it's really sad.
I
It's
think
very, very sad.
Yeah, I think time will heal that wound. As a last thought on the week, I'm going to give a very different take on a golf tournament last weekend. Tiger did come back, although he only stayed for about 25 holes, got to wear his new shirts, got the flu, left. But what we saw on Sunday, and I'm amazed. What?
No, go ahead.
Let me finish the rant. What we saw on Sunday, and I'm amazed, CBS didn't catch it. None of the golf writers, who were usually pretty sharp on this kind of stuff, caught it. What we saw on Sunday was Tiger Woods. He just happened to be from a different minority. He was wearing a solid colored, primary colored shirt, and he was hitting the ball inside 2 feet down the stretch. and we're, of course, talking about Shigeki Maruyama, who came back and won the tournament. It was a 5-way tie with 4 holes to go. And then he hits a dart to about a foot, then hits another dart to about a foot, then birdies the next hole, ends up winning by 2 and coasted home. And he was playing Tiger Woods. He just didn't happen to be Tiger Woods. I thought it was a brilliant performance. Good stuff.
Well, that's what you wanted the golf tournament, isn't it? Isn't what you wanted the golf tournament? All those guys being, tied with 4 holes to go. That's the beauty of the game. You got to love it.
I mean, I'd throw the other guys under the bus for not keeping up with him, but boy, he played brilliantly. Curry?
Well, I just wonder when we're going to talk about a golf tournament without having to talk about Tiger Woods. I mean, Bob, this is since his accident. This is what the fifth or sixth tournament he's played in. Four of them, he's either withdrawn or missed the cut. I think it's time that we realize he's not gonna be on our leaderboard anymore. Now his kid, did you just read this? His kid Charlie,
Yeah.
who's 15, is just going to try to qualify for a professional tournament. So he's keeping his name in there. I think but speaking of Riviera, this is Riviera, right? Yeah.
Right.
What is the deal with Jordan Spieth, one of our great names in golf? Can't even count, apparently. He signs the wrong score. He's disqualified. Tiger's out before the weekend. All this stuff happens. Oh, and your boy, who's the guy that was Cantley? He can't call four. Remember this? Early in the round, he's on the 18th. He hits the shot into the crowd. He doesn't call four, and everybody rips him. And they say, Bob, you're the golf guy. What is he not yelling for because he wants the crowd to keep there? Somebody gets hit and the ball rolls onto the green. What's the deal?
Well, that might be. I have no explanation. I have no explanation for.
I mean, there's
that.
a controversy every day at Riviera, and of course, the Japanese guy just goes nuts on the final day. But Bob, we have this a lot of golf tournaments, guys come out of nowhere on the final day, right? I mean, it seems to me it's not that big a deal anymore.
Then that's not the part that I'm.
You just wanted the minority, the guy wearing the yellow shirt, and
playing like there was a guy playing like Tiger. We just didn't recognize it. Maybe because we've forgotten that's how Tiger used to play. Final thoughts from either one of you guys on the week behind or the week ahead. Rich, you got any?
Well, I want to throw UVA under the bus for basketball.
Okay.
They have a great coach, terrific coach, outstanding. But they are 20-7. So that's a pretty darn good record, right? 20-7. Here are their losses. They lost by 34, 24, 23, 22, 19, 16, and their last game lost to Pitt at home by 11. Now, how's the team who's 20-7 get beat so bad? And there's a perfect example of having a terrific coach and not getting it done because you gotta have good players.
Well, that's a question for you, Rich. Rich, why is that happening? Why is it happening?
That's a great question, Curry. I'm not sure because Bennett's an outstanding coach. I have that much respect for him and what he gets out of his players. But I don't know why. How do you get beat that bad? You know, you win 20 games, 7 of those games.
Here's what's going to happen. That was at Virginia Tech, right?
At Virginia, yes.
And that's their rival at Virginia Tech. They get blown out by 37 or whatever. Now they're gonna play Saturday home game against North Carolina. Right. Carolina hasn't won there in over a decade. So watch, they'll play great and they'll beat us. So
I don't know, Curry. Look what you did against Syracuse. You know, you kicked their, by 36, and then you.
I know, and then Syracuse gets beat by Georgia Tech. Come on, it's very strange. I got to bring up one more thing about these coaches and how their rants and stuff. Yeah. So another one of our under the bus candidates every week, John Calipari. Yeah. So Kentucky plays this great game at Auburn, beats Auburn for the first time, and Auburn's on a 15-game win streak. Calipari beats them. Of course, they lost last night to LSU on the road. Another great court storming. We haven't even talked about. I'll tell you what, if I have a court storm, I want to have my girl Angel Reese storming the court like she did last night at LSU. She was great. She got some more attention. But Calipari, after he beats Auburn, he goes into the press conference, and this is how paranoid these guys are. He starts out by saying to these guys, to the sort of press, he says, "Oh, what are all these people doing here?" And he says, "I know what you're doing here. You're here to kill me." He says, "Don't kill me, kill my kids. Don't kill me." He's unlike Pitino, who doesn't take any responsibility for his teams getting blown out. Calipari says, "Look, kill me, don't kill my kids." But why are these guys so paranoid? I mean, he just has the biggest win of the year, and he's going after the press. Give me a break.
Come on, Curry.
That's-
You know they've been paranoid for 30 years, and that most of it has been directed at you.
Yeah, they came after
You're
you
just
all the
jealous
time,
because they're
didn't
not
they?
doing it now.
I know,
So
all the
what'd you
time,
do when they came after you? What'd you do?
all the
Did you
time.
leave or what?
I just give a witty response. Like, I'll leave the room so my fellow broadcasters and writers can listen to you. That's what Bobby Knight once did. He threw me out of a press conference.
Yeah, I know. That's awesome.
All right,
Have
good
we
stuff.
have we got one more minute, Bob?
Yeah, take one more
You're
minute.
Mr. Time Man. Speaking of this,
I'm just trying to keep us on
my
schedule.
greatest moment was at a Syracuse Georgetown game. This is when they both were great, and they played for the championship of the Big East on a Sunday at Syracuse. Syracuse won the game. Jim Boeheim comes in, and we didn't make one of his players player of the year that year. And the first thing he says, he's just won the Big East championship. And he looks at me and he says, Curry, you know sports, you know my guy was sportsman of the year, not your guy. He rips me. Then John Thompson comes in, and the first thing he says, he rips me for something. So it was great. Both the coaches, I think I must be doing something right if both of them are going to rip me. That's great. Those are the days. Those are the days.
Those were the days, right?
I remember this because I was standing right next to Spike Lee. He was such a Georgetown honk in those days. You know, he'd go to all of John Thompson's games, and he got a press credential for some reason. And I was standing next to him, and he's looking at me like, "Who is this guy?" You know, he has no idea who I am, and they're both ripping me, the coaches. And Spike Lee's like, "Who's this?" It was
And
great.
why do I want to know him so I can rip him someday?
Yeah, exactly.
But Curry, didn't you love that when they ripped you? Didn't you
Oh
love that?
yeah, it was great. I
Yeah.
said it was one of the great moments of my life. Yeah. Like Pitino. It was one of the most enjoyable experiences of my life.
Good way to tie a knot on this one. Thanks so much to our producer, Justin Jarrett, for Rich Basirico and Curry Kirkpatrick. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week from somewhere under the bus.
Sounds good. Take care, guys.